Good afternoon, everybody. I am Rebecca Duchette, a Senior State Systems Specialist with Nemours Children's Health, and we're here today for a training of trainers. More about that in just a few minutes. I'm going to turn it over to other people on my team to introduce themselves. So, Callisti, you're up.
Good afternoon. Good morning, everyone. I'm Khaleesi. I've been working with the Moors for about 4 years. I'm developing different content and providing TA to states around health promotion topics and early care and education. I'm very excited to be here with you all today and to share this Train the Trainer and training with you all. I'll pass it to Hannah.
Hi, everyone. My name is Hannah Press. I'm part of the PALS team with Nemours, and happy to be here today. I will pass it to Trevor.
Thank you, Hannah. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Trevor Lee. I am a program and policy analyst with Nemours and have been supporting PAL's work for the last couple of years. So nice to see you all. I'll pass it back to Rebecca.
Thanks, team. So this is your amazing pals team. I think everybody is so great and supportive, and we wouldn't be here today without everyone. So thank you guys for joining us. We are super excited to be releasing two new micro trainings this year and appreciate all the feedback and input from you guys on this work. I want to acknowledge our micro training advisory committee. Several of them are on the call today and really appreciate their work. This morning, I sent an email with the facilitator guide, and we'll be putting a link to that document in the chat as well. And I want to call out the committee members are listed on the inside of that cover. So just want to recognize the time and effort they put into reviewing the materials and giving their feedback and meeting with us. So while we're here today, I invite you to minimize your distractions in your environment. Turn off those cell phones, close the door, whatever you need to do to make it a great learning environment for yourself. Encourage you all to participate in the chat. If you want to start off with sharing which state you're from, that's always fun to see with PAL's work because we do have so many states that are part of the project. What else should we ask for this morning? We will be doing several trainer facilitation type things, so encourage you to participate in those as you're able. So, Khaleesi, can you start sharing your screens for us? Thank you. So you have an opening slide in your materials. Yours will not say training of trainers, but we do encourage you to add your name into that box on the front and also your logos from your agency or the state you're representing. As always in our materials, you have some suggested speaker notes, and we encourage you to use those as a starting point for the content you want to share with folks. We put them there to help you understand sort of what the background is, the rationale is behind the slide, and what we're hoping you'll convey to participants, but do not expect you to read them word for word. Next slide. All our materials have a funding acknowledgement and disclaimer. And we do ask you to call out that the CDC funds this work. Nemours receives a grant through ASPHN that's funding from CDC, and they fully support this work. So just ask you to call that out. Next slide. So some of you noticed and reached out that we're calling this something different than we typically do. And we wanted to share just a little bit of content about this. One of the states we work with PALS, has changed their process for credentialing trainers in their professional development registry. And they are emphasizing a TOT model. In many ways, this distinction is really about the intent and scope and outcomes more than actually the term we use. What this PD registry is really wanting to see in training events is that we're spending some time on facilitation and we're giving opportunities for case scenarios or teach back and really trainer proficiency and learning. So in the past, Nemours is really focused on giving you the content and less so on this sort of facilitation piece. And we're moving to this model. So this is the first time we do it nationally. So on our surveys today at the closing, we welcome your feedback on it. We have done a pilot on it with our friends in Alabama, and it was really well received by that group. And we've done several TOTs in the state that's requested this change at the first of the year, and they've been well received there. So we're hopeful you will like it too, and we'll see where we go from here. But did want to give some background about that. Next slide. So what does this look like for you today? I want to share up front what we're going to do at the end of the session. We have a extra half an hour built into this section for this activity. So the training content you're receiving today is a 60-minute training to share with providers. And then we'll be spending 30 minutes at the end in this activity. So this is a small group teach back that we are going to do in breakout rooms of 3 folks. As we go through the session today, we ask you to identify a concept or a content from the session that you're going to bring back to this small group. All right, so you know this up front. Pull out a piece of paper, or if you printed the facilitator guide you got this morning, take a few minutes to, as we're going through, to kind of circle and write down a couple ideas that you'll bring back to the group. When we go to the breakout groups, we're going to ask each person in this group of 3 to share the content. Bring your experience to it, your expertise, and share why it's relevant for you and the providers you work with. Each person will have a chance to do this and then receive some feedback from your peers. So it could be brainstorming and building on that content. It could be something around facilitation. It could be another connection to resources or relevant content. Yes, we can put the guide link back in the chat again. It was at the top, I think, but we can get that up there again. So are there any questions before we jump into the training slides about the breakout activity at the end? All right, we'll continue to mull on it, and you can add them to the chat, or we'll stop at different points to raise those. All right, next slide. For this session, you have 2 learning objectives that you see listed on the slide. So encourage you to share these with your participants and get them started with what we're going to be talking about today. For this session, we have 2 handouts. Yes, 2 handouts that are on the next slide. One is a participant handout that lists, that's a 2-page document, front and back. And then we've also developed a family material, a handout that we encourage providers to share with their families that they work with. All right, next slide. All right, this is a mindfulness activity that we're opening the session with. And it takes us back to mindfulness in the garden. We have a script for you that is in the facilitator guide. You might also choose to use a video clip for this exercise if you are not comfortable leading mindfulness activities or just prefer to use a video. We have chosen one on garden relaxation from Bari Corral, and it is about a 3-minute video. We're going to do the mindfulness activity together. So I invite you to sit up straight in your chair, get in a comfortable position, take a moment to drop your jaw, wiggle it back and forth, right and left. If you can, think about relaxing your face. Rest both feet flat on the ground and your hands on your thighs. Maybe lift your shoulders up and roll them to the front and the back. At your own pace, take 5 deep breaths. As you inhale, Notice your chest rise. Become aware of the texture, the temperature of the air as you inhale, and the temperature difference as you exhale. In this mindfulness practice, we're going to imagine that we are outdoors in a garden setting. You can imagine the image on the slide or your favorite outdoor setting. Picture you're somewhere you're comfortable. If you don't like to sit on the grass, picture yourself on a blanket or a lawn chair. In this imaginary garden, what do you imagine you would feel on your skin? Is there warmth from the sun or coolness? Is there a breeze? What sounds do you imagine hearing in this setting? Are there birds? Are the leaves moving in the trees? What scents can you imagine? Inhale deeply, imagining the scents. Look as far as your eye can see in your imaginary garden. What can you see in the distance? What is the closest thing you can see? What colors stand out for you in your garden? And finally, what feeling does this setting bring to you? Take one more deep breath and gently return to the group. So thank you for joining me in this short mindfulness activity. If you're willing to add to the chat, put one word that the activity brought to you. Maybe it's your feeling, maybe it's your emotions, maybe it's a sense that you became more aware of. So mindfulness activities are a great way for us to help children slow down, to help them take in their surroundings, notice the changes in their environment. And the garden presents such a rich place to explore mindfulness. We can do it outside, and then we can do it also inside in the garden. And as a facilitator, as a teacher, kind of raise up the things that we're wanting the children to be attuned to and noticing in the garden. There's such a great mindfulness activities that we can do with kids to help them self-regulate, the same way that these activities help us as adults to self-regulate. There's some more ideas in your notes about chatting through this activity with children or leading activity with the children where we might do it a little bit simpler. Yes, Deanna, redirection away from our ever-growing lists. Great way. All right, so as this is our introduction activity, we might use it also to get our folks to introduce themselves depending on your group size. You could do something like we did in the chat where you share your name and where you're from and how the activity left you feeling. We do want to give our folks a chance to use their voice. Next slide. As we open the session, we have a few slides that help ground us in Farm to ECE. I know many of you guys are familiar with this work, so we have a very simple slide here with the logo from the National Farm to School Association, their Farm to ECE logo that highlights the 3 pillars of Farm to ECE. And there's some information on the notes. Recognizing this is a physical activity training, we want to tie it into Farm to ECE practices and help raise awareness of those. Next slide. Another consideration with this training we want to raise is not everybody we work with will have a garden. And so we want to just raise a little bit awareness of some of the options and differing ways that gardens can look in ECE programs. You may be working with centers that, number 2, that a windowsill box is all they can do. Or I'm sure many of us remember the days when we did plastic bags with a paper towel in it and a bean seed and we taped them to the windows and the seeds grow up. That's the start of a garden. All these activities are important for children, no matter what it looks like in ECE settings. So this slide and the slide notes are there for you to demonstrate and discuss some of the different ways that gardens can look and really help providers understand this content is relevant for them where they are right now. We're not asking everybody to go out and create a huge in-ground garden. We're really hoping that they'll bring some gardening concepts and physical activity to the activities they're doing with children. Your notes there talk through each of the gardens on the slide. We also have an optional speaker note around hydroponics, as that is another form of gardening that is not listed on the slide. Hydroponics is when we're growing without soil using nutrient-rich water that delivers everything a plant needs. Obviously, this is a more expensive form of gardening, and we just want to raise awareness that in some states this is not allowed due to the electricity and the water involved with young children. So if a program is going to do that, we just want to make sure they're complying with state licensure. Next slide. Next, we introduce the terms in the session that we use, and you guys as PALS trainers will recognize all 3 of these terms, but we do want to level set with our participants before we jump into the content. So you have definitions for all 3 of these in your notes that, again, you'll recognize from PALS. All right, Khaleesi, I'll turn it over to you.
Awesome. Thanks, Rebecca. So let's get into objective 1. Describe how recommended practices for physical activity and farm to ECE support active play in the garden. During this section, we're going to review recommendations related to physical activity, outdoor play, and farm to ECE, specifically gardening, as that's our discussion topic for today. This section is an opportunity for level setting, like Rebecca mentioned, and it's going to be a refresher for those that have participated in PALS previously. Well, the physical activity terms and information will be, and then it'll be new information for those that have not participated in PALS before. And as a reminder, the physical activity recommendations in our PowerPoint today are from Caring for Our Children, and they're included in the core PALS trainings. And then the Farm to ECE recommended practices were developed by the National Farm to School Network and ASPHN through a self-assessment that is free for anyone to use. Let's get into it. So anyone that has gardened knows that it can be very physically strenuous and probably seems like a form of exercise to you. I know that whenever I'm in the garden and I have a very small little area that I garden with, but it still encourages movement. I can imagine myself in my garden digging and carrying different things, especially heavy bags of soil, reaching for different tools, exploring my garden area. So gardens naturally encourage movement. And gardening also supports learning across different domains for children. A study conducted on a gardening intervention in North Carolina looked at physical activity in ECE sites that had gardens over the course of 2 years. And this study found that children at the intervention sites experienced 6 more minutes of moderate to vigorous physical activity each day and 14 minutes less sedentary time each day. To put that into perspective, because I know that across one entire day, that doesn't really seem like a lot of time. But if you measure it out for over a month or 20 days spent at an ECE program, This would add up to about 120 minutes or 2 hours more of moderate to vigorous physical activity and 280 minutes or over 4 hours less sedentary time within a month. So I feel like over time, that really adds up and is a significant amount of time, right? I feel like this is important because many young children in the US, they're not getting enough physical activity each day. And early childhood, as we all know, is a critical time to help children build a love for movement and active play and confidence in their bodies. Also wanted to note the last bullet point there that the data from the study showed a stronger impact for boys than for girls, and for younger children that are around the age of 3 than for older children that were 5. I feel like that's a really interesting study, and you all should check it out. One of our close partners at NC State University, Nilda Costco, she participated in this study, in conducting the study. All right, this slide is a review of recommended practices that support physical activity in the ECE Garden. These are key terms and practices that are covered in PALS. I'm sure that they're not new terms to you all. You can review these 4 terms with your participants. Of course, there's space, time, daily activities, provider role, and then there's some great notes. If you need a reminder or refresher yourself, there's great notes about each term in the notes. And this slide is a recap of PALS content on recommended practices for outdoor play. And I feel like it's so important to talk about outdoor play and time that we're going to just go over it briefly. So for infants, it's recommended that they have outdoor play time 2 to 3 times per day or more, if you're counting at home as well. And there's not a recommendation for the established amount of time infants should spend outdoors. So there's not a recommendation for the amount of time, but just that they are taken outside at least 2 to 3 times per day. For toddlers and preschoolers, the Caring for Our Children standards are outdoor play 2 to 3 times daily, the same as for infants. And then there is a recommended amount of time, which is 60 to 90 minutes of outdoor play daily. Recommended practices also include for children to experience a minimum of 2 adult-led activities outdoor daily, just because that can help children to be more active, and sometimes they are more active in structured activities. And adult-led activities allow children to practice developing those types of motor skills that we're going to talk about in a little bit. Children that get more time outdoors tend to have higher levels of physical activity when compared to those that do not. So we really want to get our children out. So after you review the practices, you can click and a discussion prompt is going to pop up. How many times each day do children at your program go outside? And you can have a discussion around this prompt. And then there's other optional group discussion questions in the notes as well. And as Rebecca shared in the intro, Farm to ECE, it's not a particular program, but it's really a set of activities, lots of different kinds of activities that include purchasing, which is procurement of local foods and serving those local foods in ECE programs, gardening, whether it's indoors or outdoors, and food and agriculture education activities that are experiential. They're very hands-on activities that are in the classroom or outdoors. And the National Farm to School Network and ASPHN developed that free assessment tool that we mentioned before, and we can provide a link to that in the chat as well if you would like to look at that. And then this slide includes just 3 of the activities or practices that are included in that free self-assessment, and we can look at those together. So the program has a garden bed, in-ground garden, or container garden. Children participate in indoor or outdoor gardening activities at least once a week in season. And it's always a good practice to plan gardening activities intentionally so that they can include more opportunities for physical activity. So if we're planning it out and including, more opportunities for movement and carrying things and all the different types of physical activity that we talk about for young kids, then it's going to make gardening more active for them than if we just go out and just, do our gardening thing. And then gardening education is aligned to Early Learning Framework, Common Core, or state adopted content standards. Gardening activities can help meet all types of standards, whether it's QRIS, whether it's Head Start performance standards, whether it's your state's early learning standards. Most of these sets of standards are going to include requirements around physical development or motor skills, science, literacy, math, social studies, all the things, all the different topics. And gardening can be embedded. All of these different types of topic areas can be embedded in your gardening activities. There are many benefits of outdoor play and time spent outdoors. You can review the content on the slide. There are a lot of notes that might be of interest to your participants as well. And then you can have a discussion about what benefits the participants experience during the time spent outdoors. And so I'll ask you all, which of these stand out to you? And are there any other benefits that you all can think of? Anyone like to share? Any of these benefits really mean a lot to anyone?
I think there's always problem solving.
Yeah, leads to lots of opportunities for problem solving.
Mhm.
Thanks, Anne. Anyone else?
Lots of people in the chat about sleep and mental well-being. So improved behavior. Lots of good stuff in the chat.
Awesome. Thank you. I can't see the chat at this moment, so I appreciate you sharing that. Thanks for all that added information in the chat. I know for me personally, I've been outdoors more walking and doing a little bit of jogging, which I haven't always done. I've never been like a runner or anything like that. But I have noticed, like as I've been outside this spring and the sun is shining more, I'm getting more vitamin D, I'm getting more fresh air, movement. It's just all has really impacted me and my mental well-being. I feel like I can definitely tell a difference now than a couple of months ago, whenever it was still winter. Thank you all for sharing. And then now this slide specifically addresses benefits of time in the garden for children and caregivers, and there are many, many beyond just the few that are here. For staff, gardening offers a chance to learn new skills or strengthen existing ones that support both personal and professional development. Gardening can help build confidence in growing different types of plants, especially fruits and vegetables. And then they can take these skills home with them. Once you learn to garden and learn the different concepts, that's something that's going to be with you for the rest of your life, which will impact your life for the rest of your life and also those of your family members and help them to develop healthy habits as well. For children, hands-on gardening experiences support learning across domains and all of the STEM content areas, STEM, STEAM, STREAM. I'm not sure where we are at right now with all of that. Letters keep being added on. But gardening really supports all of that kind of education. And thinking about science in particular, they learn about the plant growth cycles and the impact of weather. And all of those different concepts are just really incredible to be able to broaden children's ability to learn about science. Gardens also allow children to see how foods are served at meals and snacks, to see how they grow. And that sparks curiosity and makes them more willing to try new fruits and vegetables because of that increased exposure. And then there's also an optional large group discussion question in the notes as well. All right, let's do a quick movement break. And Trevor is going to share the screen and share the video for the movement break. It's a little over 1 minute long, and it uses a children's book to encourage movement. So we're going to listen for 3 keywords. And each time the author says one of these words, we're going to do a certain motion. And the keywords we're going to listen for are actually the book title, Up, Down, and Around. I'm not sure if you all have seen this book before, but it's a really cute one. I'm going to briefly share about the motions, but please feel free to modify the activity for standing or sitting, whatever's most comfortable for you. And I'm actually going to sit. So whenever we hear the word up, we're going to reach up high. And if you're standing, stand on your tippy toes. If you're seated, then you're just going to stretch up high with your arms up. When you hear the word down, you're going to bend at the waist and reach down towards the ground. And then when you hear the word around, you're going to have your arms out beside you, and you're just going to swing your arms back and forth and stretch that back. All right, are y'all ready? Let's go.
Up, Down, and Around by Catherine Ayers, illustrated by Nadine Bernard Westcott. In the dirt we'll dig a row, drop some seeds, and watch them grow. Dirt piles up, seeds go down. Water splashes around and around. Corn grows up, carrots grow down. Cucumbers climb around and around. Peppers grow up, potatoes grow down. Pumpkins vine around and around. Broccoli grows up, beets grow down. Green beans wind around and around. Okra grows up, onions grow down. Tomatoes twine around and around. Fresh and tasty, get a bunch. Pick some, pull some, let's have lunch. The end.
Yay. How did you all like that? What other kind of motions could you have your participants do for up, down, and around? Any thoughts? What's something else? What other motions could you do for up? Maybe jumping,
You could jump or on your tippy toes.
get on your tippy toes. Yeah. How about for down? Any thoughts about a different motion for down?
Squat.
Squatting down. Good deal. How about around and around? Maybe if there's
Um,
enough space. Go ahead.
Spinning around, or if there's enough space.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Any other ideas?
Yeah,
They
maybe
could like spin their hands if they don't have a lot of room.
Oh,
Spinning.
so spin their arms.
then stretching your neck.
Oh, that's a good one. That feels nice right now. A hula hoop movement. Yeah. You could spin your arms around and around in the front. Awesome. Well, thank you all for sharing. I really like that activity. All right. You can definitely lead other discussions after that activity if you would like. And there's some question prompts in the chat, not the chat, but the notes. All right, children's books are a great way to share about gardening related topics, and there are many. I'm sure that you all know and can probably name 2 or 3 just off the top of your head, or maybe more. Especially with Farm to ECE, children's books can help expand a child's vocabulary, teach them different names for different fruits or vegetables, can gain an understanding of how their food is grown, and provide a fun way to connect learning and movement. And then incorporating movement with books can help maintain a child's interest in the stories also. Some books that could be used for movement are listed on this slide. And then in the participant handout, in the facilitator guide, there's also a link to a book list that was curated by Mass Audubon. And that actually has 7 pages of children's books that are related to gardening topics. There's also other topics of books that are in there too, such as cultural cooking, food insecurity, and lots of other ones. You can share this list with your participants during your session. If you're having an in-person session and you actually have some of these books, you can have them out for your participants to explore and look through. And then also in the notes of the PowerPoint, there are other book lists that are there as well that you can share out too. All right, I'm going to pass it back to Rebecca.
All right, so that covers our first objective. Objective 2, we're going to be talking about actual garden activities. And we have 3 that you can do with your participants depending on your setup and your space. Next slide. We continue with PALS talking about motor development and what it is, define it. There's some content here from you around how all domains are interconnected, and our activity we just did was such a great example of that because children were learning movements and directional things around and around, up and down. And if we think about it, it was using gardening to do that, and we were using movement. We were building vocabulary. There was all domains of learning that could be happening with that activity. And so we're wanting to really tie in how motor development can tie into these other domains. Next slide. You'll remember this slide from PALS, and it is one with the animation that covers the fundamental movement skills. So we pull that back out because we want to put in the context of this. These are the things young children are working on in this age from birth to 5. And the next slide, we're going to pull in how that ties to garden movement skills. So again, you'll recognize these locomotor skills, but we put them in the garden. So walking, pushing an object across the garden, carrying items, object control skills there around digging, watering, lifting materials, and then those same stability skills that we use in all of our locomotor and object control skills to make those skills happen. We have built in here for you a video that is from NC State, Safe Place Childcare. I'm sure some of you that are in Farm to EC work have seen this, but we'll show it very quickly. As you're watching it with your participants, you might want to use a prompt like to notice what fundamental movement skills you observe in the video, and then have a short opportunity for discussion. It is a 2-minute video. We're going to watch about the first 30 seconds together.
Hey, you get a proper milk. I got pizza.
See all this that I'm doing? We're going to pull all the leaves out. So make sure you get a tool, either a shovel or a spade. We can use our hands and just pull these out. Pull it out. Yes, yes, Chandler. These plants are the companion plants. Say the word companion. They're companion plants. Come back. Deep hole right here. This side. You get this side. See that side? You're gonna put it all the way down in there, right? Thank you, Gabe.
I'll make another one.
There we go.
Look, I see strawberries.
That's too heavy for you?
Super. So we saw a lot of movement skills in there. Feel free to add them to the chat if you'd like to. But again, in the notes, it suggests talking about doing a debriefing there, what they saw, what they observed. And obviously, you might not have Wi-Fi in your room where you're presenting, depending on what you're doing. So you might just want to get folks up moving and doing the fundamental movement skills that were listed on the previous slide. We have 2 slides built in, one for infants and one for toddlers, just to raise awareness. I think we have this many times a preconceived idea in our head that it's for older children, and infants and toddlers can be active in the garden as well, and it presents great opportunities for them to understand the environment and engage. So we have some ideas for infants in the garden here listed on the slide. And then next slide is around toddlers and some ideas for toddlers in the garden. And again, raising awareness that the recommended practice is that all children are outdoors 2 to 3 times per day and have engaging experiences in those environments. Yeah, it's great. All right. So now we're going to dive into some different activities and games. As a facilitator, we think these would be great opportunities to really get folks up and actually playing the games. It may be a little bit more challenging if you're training virtually like we are today. But we are going to share just 3 games. There are so many games that you could do, and you could have really rich discussions with folks thinking about how they could adapt games for outside or adapt them to the garden theme, which is what you're going to see a little bit in the games we're presenting. Anytime we're playing a game and we're talking about food, we're also raising familiarity with that food because they've heard about it in some way. And we know that children are more likely to eat foods that they're familiar with. So I think, don't ever underestimate how a game could impact a child tasting a food and trying it. Next slide. The first game we're going to share with you is hot potato, hot potato. Old school game, right? I'm sure a lot of us played it when we were little, and maybe we played it with a stuffed animal or we played it with balls. Again, thinking about the fundamental movement skills here, we want to raise awareness to what actually skills are being developed. The receiving and passing an object. Child might be crossing midline. They're making eye contact with their peers. They're visual tracking an object. So a lot of skills that are happening there. You can do some variations from the game around adding a second potato. For younger children, you might roll it instead of tossing it, or do a straight pass off from hand to hand instead of a throw. And again, I'm sure many of us remember this game, but typically there's music or singing, and when it stops, whoever is left holding the potato is typically out of the game. With young children, though, we don't do elimination games, right? We talk about that in PALS. So we would do something else. So if you got stuck with the potato, you have to stand up and jump once, or you get to move and sit by your best friend, or, whatever you decide, but the game continues after that. So you could also play this, I put out there in the notes, with a real potato, just not a cooked one, right? But that's like another sensory thing to actually hold and touch a potato, notice the eyes of the potato, and talk about how that's how a potato grows. The new growth comes out of that eye on the potato. And then you can take it inside and wash it and still eat it. All right, next slide. Our second game we're going to share with you is red apple, yellow apple, green apple. This is from a curriculum that was developed out of Arizona State University. It's known as the SAGE curriculum. There are links to it in the participant handout as well as in the trainer notes. It's much like red light, green light that we all know, but instead we hold up an apple picture that's red, yellow, or green. It could be any various locomotor skills that is supported, whatever the person calling the skill. There's also balance skills. As we stop when it's red apple, we got to balance in whatever position we're in. This is a game that really works on a child's executive function in the brain because they're stopping and starting, and they're listening to instructions, attuning to what the adult or whoever's giving the instruction is listing to do. So you can see other skills there, listening skills, movement control, and self-regulation. Oh, somebody just put in the chat, you could do it with peppers, red, yellow, green peppers. That's a great idea, Marlette. Thank you for that. Jenny has a great quote, a thing in the chat about potatoes, the importance of washing produce after we touched it. Yes. So a very simple game you're already playing, but let's put that context of fresh produce on it. And we could even do a taste testing afterwards with the different items. All right, next slide is Gardner Says. And you can be Gardner Callisti, you can be Gardner Casey, you can be Gardner anybody, but whoever's the caller in this game. And this is basically our Simon Says game, but instead of our typical Simon Says activities, we're going to do garden things. So we're going to dig a hole, bury a seed, rake up leaves. And we would want to demonstrate these actions for the children before we start calling so they understand what is expected. Again, because we don't do elimination games with children, we want them to stay engaged. We might do something like we discuss in PALS where they switch sides of the garden or the room, or they make big circles with their arms and then they re-engage in the game. So acknowledging they weren't following the directions perfectly, but we want to keep them playing, right? So those are your 3 games. This one I should also call out too is from the SAGE curriculum as well. Then the last garden idea we have for you is around yoga in the garden. And so yoga is just such a great thing for young children as they're practicing balance, they're learning spatial awareness and proprioception. And it is such a low cost thing because we don't need a lot of materials or items. I just want to call out, we don't use a lot of AI, but this is an AI generated image because we could not find a low cost or free image. And I thought it turned out pretty cute. So don't give up on AI yet. The next slide has some yoga resources for you to share with participants. We did call out some yoga poses there on the left: tree pose, frog pose, seed pose, butterfly pose, watering can, which is actually a forward fold, another name for it. And waterfall is a pose where you're laying on the ground on your back, but your legs are at a 90-degree angle straight up. So, and this is a great pose for all of us to help with that circulation. It's supposed to help with our sleep too. So you should do it for a couple minutes before bed if you're interested. So this, again, with young children, we want to do poses for very short periods of time. So put them in a tree pose and maybe they just hold it for 1 breath or maybe 2, and then they're really building up their balance and those skills over time. Your notes link to a free resource from Kids Yoga that is a gardening poster, and then the notes also call out the things on the slide. The materials, I should have said this at the beginning, we're sharing with you today are draft materials, and Callisti just found a really great video that we're going to put in the notes of this too, so we'll be adjusting this a little bit more before it's final and posted on our website. But we found Rachel's Day in the Garden. There's a great video for that we're going to be adding to the materials as well. All right. Next slide is another activity you might choose to do with your folks or not. We really love this video for the vocabulary it brings, and it uses music and movement to tie into the garden. So I invite you to join me in this one.
We start with a tiny They take in sunlight and make it sweet. The leaves make food for the plant to eat. The colorful flower is so very bright. Bees will stop and rest in their flight. They pollinate flowers and spread it around. Then the seeds fall to the ground. Roots, stem, leaves, flower needs sun and air and a little rain shower. Roots, stem, leaves, flower needs sun and air and a little rain shower.
I don't know about you, but it really reinforces like plant science there, doesn't it? Even as an adult, like you forget, oh, that helps keep the stem, it keeps it upright. So, um, it's great. It's a great thing to use with children. If you don't have Wi-Fi, this is one I'd probably try to memorize and sing it. And you don't want to hear me sing, but it's just such a great song. So, all right, Khaleesi, back to you.
All right. I hope you all did enjoy that. There's also a QR code in the participant handout that'll take you to the lyrics for the song. So I can't remember if Rebecca mentioned that, but it's there for you if you need it and would like to memorize the words. I love how gardening connects people across communities, across families, ages, generations. I feel like it's an opportunity for adults to share memories and pass on knowledge about gardening. It bridges the gap between our youngest learners and our wisest community members. I think that this training in general provides a great opportunity to have discussions and to ask participants to share their experiences and how they benefit from their own gardens, how they have memories, maybe even from their childhood, that really have been core memories for them. I know personally for me, gardening connects me to my childhood and my grandparents. And then it's also been a great way for me to connect with my own children, especially my youngest son, because he's really interested in gardening and it challenges us both in a lot of different ways. Especially as we're moving all the things around, getting our physical activity in. So I just wanted to remind you all that gardening really is good physical activity and it's good for anyone at all ages. Farm to ECE activities, especially gardening, also provide a really great opportunity to get families engaged in the ECE program. When ECE programs share about their farm to ECE efforts, they're helping to increase the family's knowledge about gardens, increases awareness about the importance of eating fruits and vegetables, and can even build the family's gardening skills and knowledge as well. So they could take it back to their home and have a small little raised bed or something like that at their own home. This slide includes several different activities a program can use to invite families to learn more about gardening in the ECE program. I'm not going to go over all of them, but you all can feel free to change out any of the activities that are listed with others that are more relevant to your area, or things that you're hearing that your providers are doing that are just really great and innovative type activities to engage families. And I've heard of many from different programs, especially those in Alabama. I hear a lot from our partners there about activities that the programs are doing. We've also prepared a handout for families. I believe Rebecca mentioned that in the beginning, and you can share that handout with families electronically, or ECE programs can print it out and share it as well. And so this slide is just a reminder about all that we've learned throughout the training. And there's 4 key takeaways that you can share with your participants. And I believe this slide is at the end of all of the PALS MicroTraining slides. And then there's a summary activity here. And this is just a 3-2-1 summary activity. We really envision this to be a pair and share type activity. And you can either do breakout rooms, or if you're in person, you could do just small groups of 2 to 4 people for each group to discuss the different prompts that are on the slide. And there's also a space in the participant handout where the participants can note their responses as well. And so each group should share back in the large group as well. So the 3 prompts are: identify 3 ideas or concepts discussed that square with your thinking, List 2 ideas or activities you will take back and share with peers, families, or apply in your practices with children. And discuss 1 idea circling in your head or that you'd like more information on. We hope that you all like that activity, and I feel like it's a good reflection activity to go at the very end of the training. And so we're not going to do this today because we have a different exercise we're going to all do together, and I'm going to pass it back to Rebecca.
Super. If you can you stop sharing for just a minute before we do our breakout activity? I would love just to open up the floor to some conversation, some thoughts about the content and how you might use it with folks or something that stood out for you.
I like to take this information and share it with my provider network. Also, do it with my parents.
Oh yeah, Marlette, I think that'd be great. I could see parents really getting into this, especially the games. Thanks. Yeah.
Rebecca, this is Phyllis, and I think from past experiences with PALS, when you were talking about the books and the activities, when I was training the actual care providers, they really got into that and those actions, and they could take that back with their kids, and they really enjoyed that.
Super, Phyllis. Thank you. Alicia, I see your hand.
Good afternoon, everyone. Alicia Wright from Millersville, Georgia. We're one of the REACH funded projects out of Houston County Board of Health. So one of the things I think stands out really for us is now that we have some potential lessons that we can use. One thing that is new for us is we have actually supported the upstart of 7 farm to ECE sites in 2 rural counties in central Georgia. And so now to figure out how we can incorporate some physical activity into some of the work that we're doing in farm to ECE. So I think that really stands out for us.
Thanks, Alicia. Huh. I see Morgan's comment in the chat about this being a great opportunity, offering during Farm to School Month and ECE Month in October. And that would be a really nice tie-in too at events. All right, well, we will come back and share a little bit more after our breakout group. So Caliste, if you can get that slide back up, I'm sorry. I wanted to put the breakout group instructions out here again. Again, you're thinking about a concept or content that you want to share with the group and rediscuss it again or teach it to them. Just talk about it with them because you are in small groups of 3. And again, you're bringing your own experiences. So when you get to your groups, you want to do some introductions. You're in groups of 3. So it'll be a nice small group. And identify somebody that's going to kind of keep watch on the time. We're suggesting that each person share for a few minutes and then they get some feedback from their peers and then it goes to the next person. So everybody has a chance to share and also a chance to give feedback. And we'll, if you guys can identify something you want to bring back to the main room, that would be great. So let's launch those breakout rooms. You're going to be there for 15 minutes and then we'll come back and just wrap up together. Well, it looks like folks are coming back. We probably also lost people because you always do when you do breakout rooms. That is a downside of them, right? As a facilitator. But, hi, people are coming back. All right. All right, super. I hope your group was good. I went to 2 groups and they were amazing discussions. So I hope yours was rich as well. I think cross-learning is the way we all learn best, whether we're providers or trainers or whoever we are, learning from our peers. So love to open up the floor for anybody that had reflections or things they think would be great for the full group to hear. Sarah, I'm going to pick on you too, because I was in your group to start us off.
All right. One of the things that stood out to us was
meeting providers where they're at. So really thinking about the adaptability of this specific training, and that it was, bite size people. It was kind of meeting people where they're at, something they're interested in. And one of the things we specifically talked about, because it came up of like, if doing this virtually and how to be engaging. And I think you guys do such a good job with the games and the activities and really the hands-on piece around practicing and modeling the games that then providers can take back to the children in their program. And then I guess one highlight or thing I'll call out is I talked a little bit about I have the pleasure of working with Casey Marcotte, who was helped to look at this training. And one thing that are finding really successful in Maine is offering a consistent schedule of virtual training. So we offer them monthly throughout the year, and we also do that or offer them during nap time. So really, that we've heard back from our providers again and again that is a time that works for them. So we offer the training from 1 to 2. And they sometimes have sweet little infants on their, resting on them, putting them to bed, but they are excellent multitaskers. So they're always super engaged. And yeah, so we're really excited to offer this training next year.
I'll share about our group. I was with Miss Alicia and Miss Bunny, and things we were talked about were the infant being able to participate in Farm EC. A lot of teachers don't think because they're babies that they can participate, but I'm glad it was added because I have a center I'm working with now that they don't believe that they can. And then we talked about family engagement, how to really get the families engaged because the kids do it at school, but actually bringing in the families. And Miss Bunny gave us a good idea about being outside. She said about some edible flowers that I did not know anything about. Look.
Thank you, Bonnie. She's put a list in the chat of safe and toxic flowers. But yes, there are many flowers that are edible for young children. Nasturtium, which are a little bit spicy, and violets. Anytime we're eating plants, though, and flowers, we want to make sure they haven't been treated with pesticides or things like that. So I'll just call that out because even if a plant is safe, it was treated with something chemical, we don't want to ingest it. Lovely. Any other groups?
I can share. So I was in a group with Annie and Kim, and we talked about lots of great things, actually. I think all three of us enjoy the PALS and teaching and sharing with others. I talked about I think it's important to do life cycles and follow it through to the end where they can be exposed to these foods in, harvesting them and then preparing them and how they're very different. And then sharing that with the children, sharing that with the parents, always a great communication with parents as to what we're doing with the children. And hopefully they can take that and engage with their children at home.
Thanks, Susan. Another group I popped in on was talking about the family engagement piece and how much that resonated for them. So I know there was a lot of rich discussion in rooms, folks. I can't believe how quiet you are. You're facilitators.
I will share in our group, we spoke about, Simone was mentioning that one of her programs is starting to implement a garden now, and sort of thinking about how can that be not just an activity for the next month, but how are you really embedding that all year long and really working with the staff around that. I thought that was a great idea as well.
Thanks, Kathy. Yeah.
I think we really talked about the diversity of ways to engage in the garden, especially the different types of garden. We appreciated the slide that there was for that, based on what might be accessible to different sites, what room they have, what budget they have. We talked about ideas like the picture I dropped of the shoe rack garden, which can be done right on the back of a door in a canvas shoe rack. You want to put something under it if you do it, but it doesn't take up a whole lot of space and doesn't cost a lot either. And then we also talked about then connections between the garden and back in the classroom or at home through taste tests, hitting those 8 to 15 or more exposures that it takes for a child to accept a new food. The slides mention the family engagement through offering taste tests at pickup time, but also doing that with a garden harvest, doing it in class, doing cooking demonstrations, and sending ingredients or supplies home with the families as well.
Thank you, Kevin. All right, well, we can be quiet too, and that's okay. Trevor has put a survey link in the chat, and it's our typical survey. The last question is an open-end question, though, and we'd love for you to use that space if you're willing to share your reflections on the training of trainer activity and this additional component, and what you thought of that, how it worked for you. We've also put some links in the chat to where the guides are, the facilitator guides, and the slides are right now. These will be put up on our website in the coming weeks. But that takes a few weeks on our end, and we also wanted to put them out there first. We caught a couple things today that we want to tweak a little bit, and get that final copy up there and then be emailing all of you when those are final and on the website as well. If you need them ahead of time, please reach out though. If you're doing something next week and you want to use them, we're happy to get them to you sooner. I will be sending all of your state's leads the attendance roster for today so they can capture your participation and attendance in any PD registry system in your state. And thank you so much for joining us today. I am really excited about this microtraining because gardening is such a passion for me. I think that we can do so much academically, cognitively, developmentally. And if anything our world needs right now, we need more children and people that are environmental stewards. And this is one part of that is, that connection to the garden and the outdoors. This creates the next generation of kids that care about the environment, they care about where their food comes from, and they know where their food comes from. And this is so important for our health. So thank you guys for your piece in this work and what you do. And I look forward to seeing you next time in June 17th. We'll be doing another training of trainers, active play in hot weather, which is also another nice tie into the garden. So have a great day, and thanks to you all.